You see, brands are getting cancelled all of the time because they're doing things that are inappropriate. Because a lot of the time, the people who are marketers, they don't have the lived experience to the people that they're marketing to. I feel like there's a gap.
What is your most simplest definition of a brand, and how do we measure if it's actually working?
When you see a Nike swoosh, what do you associate with that? That's what branding is. It's the assumption that you make when you see the visuals attached to the business. So when I'm thinking Nike, I'm thinking innovation, I'm thinking sports. All of those assumptions, if you were to speak to the next person and the next person, they'll probably say the same thing.
Today's guest has turned survival into strategy. She's a culture first brand strategist, managing director at Smaid Entertainment, and editor at large at the Southern African Times. Get ready for a masterclass in branding, culture, and courage with the one and only Korrine Sky. Hello and welcome to Invincible Minds podcast. I am your host, Collins Nyatanga. Before we begin today, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to listen and join our conversation. We truly, truly appreciate you being here with us. And I know this episode is going to be a breakthrough for our community. Today's guest has turned survival into strategy. She's a culture first brand strategist, managing director at Smaid Entertainment, and editor at large at the Southern African Times. Her journey is full of trials and triumphs, from building a six-figure e-commerce business to fleeing war in Ukraine and helping thousands, to rebuilding a mission-led career advising clients on trust, influence, and cultural credibility. Get ready for a masterclass in branding, culture, and courage with the one and only Korrine Sky. Welcome to the podcast, Korrine.
What an introduction, Collins. You're making me shy. Firstly, before we even do all of that, I want to give you your flowers. Like, I love what you're building with Invincible Minds. I've been watching all of the interviews and I feel like you're the person for it. Like, you're a real leader. I'm really, really proud.
Thank you so much. Talking personally, I have been inspired by you for a very long time. From the time that I was living in the UK, seeing the impact that you made and how, you're serving our communities, all the viral moments. So it is a pleasure to finally get a moment to speak to you and know all about the journey and the mindset behind your success. Amazing. So before the strategy decks, before the global headlines, there was a teenager testing ideas and solving problems. I want to start off at the very beginning. And can you please just share with our audience, what was your first taste of entrepreneurship?
Okay, so my entrepreneurial journey started at the age of 16. So when everybody was like getting ready to go to college and they had their paths sorted out in their heads, they were going to go to college and then go to university. I was trying to figure out. I came from Zimbabwe. We were asylum seekers. The papers weren't papering for like a very long time, and I had to like find ways to make something out of my life. So I was just trying to be innovative, and the first thing that I thought of was vintage clothing. So my friends, they would give me like their clothes and then I would rework them. So I would like tie and dye them, I would cut them. I went to a school that was very Caucasian, so there was a lot of like white people and they were into that. So I kind of assimilated into the culture and I started making things for them. So they would give me like a batch of their clothing, like old clothes, and then I would rework them. And then they would pay me, I think it was like £20 for like 4 items.
Nice.
So then once I started doing that, I did the whole school, all my friends, everybody used to come to me and I thought, you know what, this is actually like quite a good idea. Like how can I level this up? So I started doing it on Big Cartel. So I made a website, made my logo, and then I started doing like denim shorts. So I would like stud them, bleach them, color them, and then I'd also paint like, Doc Martens. So I would paint them and customize them, trainers, like the whole bit. So whilst that was happening, I'd also had like a eBay account where I would buy and sell trainers. So you know how there would be like release day trainers. That was like a thing, in the early 2000s where you'd have like Yeezy drops or you'd have the new Nike Jordans and then they would sell out like automatically. So I would put them on, I'd buy as many as I can and then put them on eBay, and then people would bid for them at like exorbitant prices. So that money, I'd use it to invest into what I was doing with the clothes. And I was doing that for like a good, I think probably 3 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, I did that for a good 3 years, and then I evolved into something else.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, you had mentioned at the start there that you came from Zimbabwe and you
Mm.
said you and your family were asylum seekers. Can you just express more in terms of where the entrepreneurial spirit then came from? So you had just moved to a new country, you were testing and learning, but where does that entrepreneurial spirit derive from?
They say that necessity is the father of invention. So when you need, that's when all the good ideas come. So it was never like a thing where I sat down and said, oh, I'm going to create a business plan and this is what I'm going to do. It was necessity. I had to find a way to make something, out of myself. And that's where the innovation came, because I needed to do something. So I can't really say that I got it from anywhere or it was something that was planned, or no, I can't really say that. It was just a massive necessity.
Definitely. I mean, I can definitely speak from personal experience. It really pushes you when your back is against the wall and you're forced to think, listen, I have to make something happen here. I have to do
Mhm.
something. No one is coming to save us. I think Mel Robbins coined that statement, right? That no one is
Mhm.
coming to save you. You have to get up and get working. So then you moved on to your clothing business. So tell us a bit more about that.
And I think to even add on to that, if you go to Zim, you will see there's
Hmm.
vendors everywhere because people need to do things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like being idle like makes you slow, and it also
Hmm.
makes you depressed. So
Yeah.
in that season of my life, I just had to figure out something, and I did. So after I moved on from, so I was doing vintage clothing, and then the
Hmm.
trends changed. One thing, guys, that I want you to know, if you're ever like interested in starting a fashion brand, either you need to come up with your own ideas, or
Yeah.
you need to be ready to be constantly evolving. That was my first lesson in fashion and e-commerce, is that you have to constantly be thinking, and that just because you've got a successful business today doing vintage clothing doesn't mean that in a year, 2 years, 3 years, it will be successful, because trends are constantly being pre-planned and they're constantly evolving. So I learned that lesson. So after there was that whole like indie fashion, vintage clothing season, we moved to the Kardashians. So we're now in early Instagram. Tumblr's like phasing out. So one of the things that I used to do to market my vintage clothing brand is I used to take Tumblr pictures and then they would go viral. So that's how I used to drive sales. So now we're in Instagram, is just enter the chat. The Kardashians are everywhere. They're like spearheading like BBL fashion, bodycon dresses. So the whole fashion has changed now. So I had to think, okay, I need to move with the times, because clearly what was in fashion then is no longer in fashion. So I started selling kind of like House of CB kind of fashion, Kardashian inspired kind of fashion. This is before Pretty Little Thing was even there. There was no
Yeah.
PLT in those days. So I would like go on like AliExpress, Alibaba, like looking for suppliers that used to sell celebrity inspired fashion. Yeah, that was the next version of my business.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on something that's actually quite interesting. Your mind clearly was very business orientated, and you
Mm,
can even see at such a young age the essence of market research. So you didn't
mm,
just sit there and hope that things were going to happen. Like you actually went out into the market, you paid attention to what was selling, what was moving, and you thought,
mhm,
how can I get involved in that? So with your
mhm,
particular business, what products were you selling, and how did you manage to get to six figures? Because we know
mhm.
that's a massive achievement to make.
So I did six figures twice. I did it when I was 16, and then I did it
Mhm.
again when I was 19. So the
Yeah,
first time I did it, it was no, I did it 3 times. So the first business I was telling you that reached six figures, because it was I would promote on Tumblr, so the pictures would go viral, and then there would just be an influx of sales, and they would be worldwide. So when Instagram came out, there was loads of like Kardashian fan pages,
yeah.
right? So how I used to like pick my outfits is I would see what the celebrities are wearing and then
Hmm.
look for dupes. right?
Okay,
And then when I
nice.
found the dupes, I would send the link to the Instagrams I used to find what celebrities were wearing. So there were loads of like fashion pages that would be like, Kylie's wearing this outfit. She got it from Gucci, but you can also get it from here. So my idea was to, as soon as I saw something, I would see if I can either get it made, I can see if there's a dupe available, and then put it on the market, and then send it to the trend watching Instagram pages, and
Pages,
then it
yeah,
would be
yeah.
everywhere.
And
But
it
it
would
was
blow
about
up, yeah.
timing. Yeah, it
Great
would blow up.
response, yeah.
And you know what? I think to myself now, like, how did I even think of these things? Like, how did I
Yeah.
even think of these things? But yeah, that's what I used to do. And there used to be like a page where people would look for outfits. It was kind of like
Hmm.
Pinterest. It used to be called Where to Get. So this was like my biggest secret. There was a website called Where to Get. I don't even think it exists anymore. So people would put pictures of outfits that they've seen on Instagram or Tumblr, and then they would be like, where do I get this? So I actually used to pick my stock from that website. So whatever people were looking for, that's what supply and demand.
Oh,
So that's how I
that's
did it.
really, yeah, that's really amazing, and I'm pretty sure our audience is having their mind blown right now. You know that Korrine is a hustler, right? And you have just shared a lot of principles, but if you
Mm,
could bottle one main thing that you feel was the key to helping
mm.
you have multiple six-figure businesses, what was it about your mindset that you feel was the key that helped you?
Tenacity. Like I would say I'm a very tenacious person. I don't care. And I also don't listen to the noise. Like I have like in my head, what I think and I go with that. And I don't have like a board of people who, I've realized in coaching other people that people need a lot of outside validation. They need to be validated for their ideas in order for them to even go for it. So a lot of the things that I do when I coach people is encouraging them, right? And I realized that if you are able to encourage yourself and you're able to go before you go around asking everybody, what do you think? What do you think? Should I do this? Should I do this? You actually get further because within that process of looking for validation, you actually lose steam. And sometimes people can get in your head what's a good idea to you isn't a good idea to everybody. And if you're a visionary and if you're a person who's forward thinking, a lot of the things that you're going to say to other people, they're not going to understand them. So if you're always looking for outside of validation before you move, you're delaying your progress, I think. So I would say like the key to my own success is being tenacious.
Thank you very much, Korrine, for sharing that. Self belief and tenacity are really the keys. I'm interested to know, what did success mean to young Korrine when you first started versus what success means to you now?
When I was younger, I never felt successful. I didn't. Like even now, like I feel like it's catching up to me. But back then, because there was nobody I could talk to, because nobody was into any of the stuff that I was doing. There wasn't like people have mentors now, and I'm a mentor, but back then I didn't have any mentors. I never felt like I was doing anything. I was just trying to figure it out. But I think in my mind, how I envisioned success was very like materialistic. I wanted to make lots of money. My focus was just making lots of money. And I feel like an aspect of that was like trauma based because of everything that we'd been through, and everything we've been through as a family. I thought that money was the fix. So all I in my mind it was always if I make lots of money, everybody will be comfortable and we won't have any problems. And then success to me now is impact. I feel like impact and legacy. So my focus is I want to leave an impact. I want to go and I was there. That's like my focus. And I also want to make life easier for my children. I want them to be able to, even not even only my children, my family, my mentees, my friends. I want my name to open doors for other people.
Mhm.
So that to me is success.
Yeah, no, perfectly said. Truly, I think as you go through life, what we define success as often changes based on life experiences, right? And it's
Mm,
brave of you to share that in terms of something that a lot of us do feel. I think a lot of us
mm,
who have come from Africa, Zimbabwe for us specifically, and are seeking a better life, we believe that monetary success is the thing that's going to heal everything.
mm, mm,
And sometimes it distracts us from focusing on relationships, focusing
mm,
on time with our loved ones. You could be chasing success, but your parents are getting older. Slowly, your priorities change, and the impact lens and the legacy lens is really, really important. So, you have already been doing such an amazing job. We've seen it go from those early days of entrepreneurship to now impact.
mm,
You are defined as a culture first brand strategist. So, can you
mm.
please just share a little bit more in terms of where that strategic decision came from for you to lead with culture and impact?
So when I turned 18, I
Mm,
started a lingerie business. And
yeah,
that was the first brand I created intentionally. So I created it with the mindset that we have an audience of Black people. We have an audience of fuller figured women. We have like curvaceous women, but there's nothing on the market that serves them. So my thing was marketing. Like I was like, I want to market to that demographic because clearly it's not being served. So before then, these are like the early like grains of what culture first brand strategy is thinking about the community and the people that you want to serve and finding a way to serve them in a way that's not extractive and you're not like mining, but you're actually empowering. So one of the feedbacks that I used to get all of the time was like, it's so nice to see like a woman who looks like me wearing this nightwear, this lingerie. And then I think it went into my head, but I didn't really think about it. It was just like, okay, this has been successful. And I know it was successful through marketing.
yes,
But I didn't go back and think, why was it successful? So, I come back from Ukraine and the first person I spoke to, when I was trying to like rebuild my life, you had her on your podcast, Ruth. She was on my
yes,
case. She would not leave me alone. Like she was on my case. I'm thinking to myself, like, why is this girl on my case? Like, I don't know. And back then I wasn't a consultant, I wasn't a coach. I didn't even understand that you could do a business where you advise people and you strategize with people. I didn't even know that existed. All I'd ever known was service or you have a product, you sell the product and you get the money. I didn't know that you could offer a service other than like cleaning or cooking and then you get
yeah,
money from it. News to me, right? This babe, she calls me and she's like, oh, we need to have a meeting. So I jump on the meeting, like I had like my bonnet on. I wasn't even interested. I was even in the dark. And then she's like, oh, I need some advice. I'm building this. And she's explaining to me. And I'm like, so I give her the advice, like, relax. I didn't even think anything of it. I was just telling her, like, okay, you can go about this, you can do this. This is how I would build your brand. This is what you're good at. This is how I think you can serve people. This is what I think you should do. The babe then turns around and she's like to me, like, okay, I want us to do this like on an ongoing basis. How much will you charge? I'm like, charge for what? Like, I didn't understand. Like,
yeah,
charge for what? She goes, no, I want to work with you. I want to pay you because I feel like the knowledge that you have is valuable. So first ever client as a brand strategist, Ruth Kodai. So now I'm doing it. And then I started doing it for other people. I started doing it for other people. So basically what I used to do was marketing and brand strategy. So it was very focused on selling. Like it wasn't really, it's only when I started learning more about marketing, like from a theoretical perspective. So I'm a scholar, like I read, proper reader, researcher. I need to understand what have people who have been here before, what have they said about this? So I studied marketing because I also had a bit of imposter syndrome where I thought, okay, I know these things, but what if I'm lying? What if I'm just going
yeah.
around
There's
swindling people?
credibility as well, right? Yeah, yeah,
Credibility. I needed to really understand like the industry. So I started researching more and more about marketing and brand strategy. And I realized that even when you see adverts, like in this day and age, a lot of the time, when you're selling something and you're marketing to people, you're marketing to a specific kind of person. You have kind of like an avatar in your head of who you're speaking to. And some of the things I've seen that have happened in the marketing industry are quite extractive, they're quite disappointing, you see brands are getting cancelled all of the time because they're doing things that are inappropriate. Because a lot of the time, the people who are marketers, they don't have the lived experience to the people that they're marketing to. I realize there's a gap, and the gap is people aren't understanding the people that they're marketing to. So how can I create frameworks or ideas, or even change my lens in a way that when I'm giving people advice and I'm consulting for people and I'm coming up with strategies and decks, how do I understand the person that we're speaking to more? And we're living in such a if you think of consumer behavior, it's changed a lot in the last 5 years, especially Gen Z. Gen Z's perspective on brands and business is so different from millennials. Millennials, I guess they were a bit more, capitalist, a bit more self-centered. But I think that the world that Gen Z have inherited has a lot of problems. So they're a bit more conscious of the things that they put their dollar to. So if they're putting their dollar to, they want to make sure that, okay, what it is that you're selling me, does it match the ethics, the actual ethics of the company? Does it match the representation of the company? Is the messaging empowering to my community, or they're just giving me this language to sell to me, but then once they've sold to me, they're gonna ditch me, and they're actually
Yeah.
doing things that are exploitative to my community. So I started realizing that, and being a writer, one of the things I would do is I would critique campaigns. So in my critiquing campaigns and researching about different campaigns that I've seen, I'm thinking a lot of the things that are the downfall of a lot of marketing efforts is a lack of understanding of culture. And
Yeah.
culture is everything. Culture is the similarities of people, and culture is what bonds people. So if you're using culture to promote, are you extracting from the culture, or are you actually benefiting from the culture? I realized there was nothing like it. Also because marketing is very white. It's all very like middle class industry. Into marketing is very, very based on relationships, who you know. It's not the kind of career that you get, that you climb up based on merits. It's literally based on relationships. If you know the right people, you can go further in your career. And what that creates is people at the top, you have no understanding of the people that they're marketing to. So I started doing my research, and I started writing and coming up with my own frameworks, because I thought to myself, like, there's going to be a whole generation of marketers who they don't have this, like they don't have there's no books on this. So I started writing and creating the actual frameworks and the theory behind what culture first
Yeah.
brand strategy is.
Amazing, amazing, guys. Class is fully in session. Thank you so much. And we are going to break down everything that Korrine has said. So if you guys are listening, please stay on and hear the expertise from Korrine Sky, brand strategist with a culture focus lens. So a lot of people nowadays hear the word branding everywhere. Like you said,
Mhm.
it is the in thing, right? But what is your most simplest definition of a brand? And how do we measure if it's actually working?
I would say that a brand is a culmination of a few things, right?
Mhm.
So it's about visuals. So it's also about visuals and being able to understand recognizability. So if you see like a Nike, you see the tick, you automatically know that this is Nike. That's the first step. But now, when you see a Nike swoosh, what do you associate with that? That's what branding is. So it's the assumption that you make when you see the visuals attached to the business. So when I'm thinking Nike, I'm thinking innovation, I'm thinking sports. All of those assumptions, if you were to speak to the next person and the next person, they'll probably say the same thing. So when you know that a brand is working is when you can put, I don't know, 5 people together, and you give them a picture and you ask them, okay, what do you think when you see this? So I would say that branding is about creating a world in which people can make assumptions that are shared. Yeah,
Yeah.
shared assumptions.
Shared assumptions. Very, very, very good. And earlier you mentioned that, one of the challenges that is within marketing and branding is the people at the top don't represent the people that they're marketing towards. So, what do you think are the most common mistakes you see in branding based on that logic? What are brands getting wrong when it comes to branding and culture?
I can give you like 5 examples, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that time when Kendall Jenner gave a Pepsi can to the police officers and then they solved racism?
Yes.
Do you remember that time when Adidas released like this reggae themed collection? And they even got the colors wrong. Like, it was
Yeah.
a Matheline. Do you remember the time when H&M
Mhm.
put the monkey
Yes,
top
yes, yes.
on the little
Cheeky
boy?
little monkey. Yeah, yeah, that was massive. Yeah,
That is really, really mad, right? So
yeah.
these are three examples of what happens when the people that you're marketing to aren't in the room. And also, sometimes people say that it's actually an issue of representation, but I don't think it is. I think that sometimes that the Black people, the Asian people, they're in the room,
Hmm.
but the way that the system is created is that they don't have a voice. So even if they were to
Okay.
say something, and the workplace culture, even if they were to say something, everybody would look at them like they're crazy. They wouldn't even have a voice. So I realized that in creating the language and the framework, it's empowering to the people who are in the rooms. I created a tool. It's on my website. So one of the tools I created, it's an actual tool. It has questions. So it's to make sure that like when you're about to do a campaign that's targeted towards a specific community, is your campaign racist? Basically, like that's basically what I was trying to give people the tool to be able to understand that even if you don't see it, how it's going to be seen by the community that you're trying to serve, you need to go through it in a very like strategic and systemic way, because the people in the room, they may not even have the power to say, okay, guys, I think we've lost it here.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I realized that I need to empower the current marketers and give them the language, the skills, and the tools to be able to do their job. Because it's
Yeah.
actually not even necessarily a representation problem. It's
Hmm.
just it's a power imbalance problem.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing. I think I've definitely heard the argument that it is representation, and you hear people saying if the right people are in the room, these things shouldn't happen. But then you also hear the other side of the argument that these brands, they are fully aware of what it is that they're doing, and they're sort of using a marketing technique to sort of rage bait a community or to incite conversation, to create a buzz, because they say there's no such thing as bad marketing. Marketing is marketing. If people are talking about you, they're talking about you. Where do you stand on that perspective in terms of brands being held accountable?
Some brands do know what they're doing. You see it in beauty a lot. You'll see there was a brand that created a foundation, and the foundation it had no undertones. It was literally like black paint, like
Hmm.
literally black paint. There's nobody who is that color, basically. So I think they knew what they were doing. And also they send it to influencers, there's testers. So I think in that incident, they knew what they were doing, and they knew that
Yeah.
it would create like there's people who hate buy, so they buy so that they can make reviews and they can. So I think that's what they were trying to do. But I also
Yeah.
think that not all brands do that. I feel like some brands, they genuinely are ignorant or they don't know better, and they just need a bit more like understanding of what to do and what not to do. However, I do believe that some brands do rage bait, but not all brands. Some,
Not all
because
brands.
at the end of the day, why would you want to have negative backlash on your business? You know, people say that all publicity is good publicity, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's really not. And I can attest to that, because earlier on in my business career, I made so many mistakes. Like I
Speak
made
on it. Speak on
so
it. Yeah.
many mistakes, and it
Yeah.
wasn't even out of maliciousness. It was literally out of ignorance. I didn't know better, right?
Yeah.
So I made all of these mistakes, and to rebuild from that point has been a lifelong journey. Like it's been a lifelong journey, and if you lose your credibility, you have to rebuild that credibility. So I don't think that people would just willingly choose to make mistakes that hurt people and that actually affect how people perceive the values of a brand for what is it, publicity. No, not always.
Okay.
No,
Cool.
some brands, they don't have a heart, but I feel like if you've created something like it's a founder led brand, there's no way that you're doing things like that for the sake of publicity.
Thank you for sharing. So, if representation isn't the issue, You
Mm.
have created a very, very good framework that you've said. So you were leading in this space, right? You're actively serving brands to take a more intentional approach when it comes to their marketing practices and
Mhm.
their branding practices. So how do you advise brands from, you know, not making culture a costume? Because it's easy to just parade, we are a cultural brand, and there's the whole topic of D&I and how brands have taken advantage of that and paraded certain principles, but were quick to dismiss them when certain policies came within. And so, what are some of the experiences that you've had in that way to really get brands to understand that culture is just as important as their other metrics?
Target. Do you remember Target? The American, it's like supermarket, isn't it? You say it's a supermarket.
Yeah.
So, they always say that there's not enough Black people, like we're not a dominant market. But if you look in every single business, Black people are the ones who spend the most. So I think for so long it was acceptable to disrespect communities because we're not a prominent market in terms of we're a minority. So because we're a minority, our voices don't matter because, we're not the ones who are pushing the business forward. However, if you look at like companies like Target, they literally had to like close down so many stores because Black people decided to boycott a lot of these businesses because of their DEI. During the George Floyd Black Lives Matter season, Target came out and they released a statement and they were like, George Floyd could have been one of our employees. There's people just like him who work with us and who are part of the Target family. When DEI started being rolled back, they were the first to jump and say, "Oh, no more DEI, get the blacks out." They jumped on it, and
Yeah.
understandably the Black community in America were like, was it not you? Were you not, are you guys, is this not you? So they started pulling up what the statement that they had announced back when it was Black Lives Matter, saying you guys were so pro the community. Why is it that now President Trump is like doing an attack towards DEI? You're the first to now roll back. So I think that the power belongs with the people. And if you understand that, the people are the ones who, even if from a presidential and democratic standpoint, the power is with the people. And I've realized that people are starting to understand their power a bit more, that they have choice in where they spend their money. We're in a season where people are learning more and more and more every single day about how the world works. A lot of that has to do with social media. It has to do with more conversations happening. And it is in the best interest of any business to match the values and the doing. So whatever you're telling people, whatever you're saying to people that we are a brand that stands for the people, we're a brand that's women led, we're a brand that's that cares about minorities, the proof has to be in the pudding every single time because consumers are no longer ignorant. They're not blinded anymore. There's so much. I feel like it's a lot to do with there's a lot of thought leadership. So if you see like platforms like TikTok and LinkedIn, there's a lot of people speaking more than that they've ever spoken. And in that, the influencers are no longer the people who are doing hauls. The influencers are now the thought leaders, like people like you who come and they share their thoughts. In you sharing your thoughts, you influence people, right? And you're showing people a world that they may never have known before. So our consumers, they're no longer ignorant. So they'll catch you straight away. And if you want, they'll catch you. It doesn't matter that if you're a established business, a company that's been around for a long time, if you're not being true to the values of the people that you serve, there won't be longevity for your business. There won't be.
Yeah.
There won't be. So I think it's in the best interest for people to start thinking of how they can genuinely serve the communities that they're extracting from.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And this is really a masterclass. So, if you have a brand that you're building, it is important to make culture central to everything that you're trying to do. I know you might want to focus on the bottom line, getting as many sales as possible, building a team, expanding to this market, refining the product, but culture needs to have the same weight. So we've spoken on a brand and business level, but let's take it just a little bit deeper and talk about personal branding. So what are some of the principles that we can take from traditional branding and apply to personal branding?
Okay, so before I created my own personal niche, which is culture first and brand strategy, I thought that the angle I was going to go through was personal branding because, like I said, my first client came to me with a personal branding request. And in learning more about personal branding, I realized it was like a common misconception. Like people think that personal branding is creating like a character, and then you create that character and then you keep on forcing that character down people's throats. That's what I realized from originally learning about personal branding. What I kept on seeing again and again and again and again is about oh, it's about your reputation, it's about, what people say about you when you're not in the room. Those things are all completely correct. However, one thing I would like to add in me being a culture fast brand strategist is that it has to be authentic because the mask will slip. And if the mask slips and people realize that you've been lying to them, you've created another problem.
Yes.
So whenever like you're creating a personal brand, don't get rid of the things that you feel like are so imperfect that you can't bring them to people, you know? One of the first ever keynote speeches I ever did, I was so nervous. Like I was really, really nervous. I was shaking. I had like written everything down. I knew what I was going to say and I wrote everything down because I wanted to deliver this message so perfectly. But
Yeah.
my knees were shaking, everything was shaking. And the speech was about personal branding. So when I got on stage, I took off my shoes. I was like, guys, I'm really, really nervous and I want to deliver this in a way that's authentic and that you actually leave with something. So I took off my shoes, I sat down and I started speaking. Because I realized that how can I come to people and tell them that personal branding is about authenticity when I brought my representative to deliver this speech. Like, this is not me. Like, I am not this person. And I also feel like when you take that angle towards personal branding, it also accommodates people who are like neurodiverse, people who are different, that you don't need to assimilate. You just need to show up consistently, right? So what I would then say is how you now have consistency as a brand, especially if you're a person who's multi-talented, multi-hyphenate, multi-interested, because I'm all of those things. I've got 35 jobs, 1 million interests.
Yeah.
I'm always starting new things. And it's
Yeah.
something I used to tussle with all of the time. I used to struggle with that. I used to think like, why can't I just be like everybody else? People, specialists get further in life. You don't get the journey of a generalist. Start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. You're here, you're there, you're everywhere. But how do I deliver consistency to people that they know what to come to me for, even though I've got multiple talents? And I realized that it's about being value-based. So what are your values and what is your why? If you get a really, really good understanding of your mission and your values, that mission and those values can be delivered in different ways, you know? I would say that my mission in this season of my life is to empower people, but to also empower my community and the way that our stories are told. So within every single aspect of everything that I do is storytelling. Narrative is so, so important to me because I realize that history belongs to the people who are willing to tell the stories. So everything that I do has to do with storytelling. And in knowing that that's one of my values and in knowing that that's one of my key focuses, I can show up in different ways and not feel like I'm being stifled, and I also feel like I'm being authentic to myself. So focus less on the niche, the who, the what, the where, and more on the why.
Yeah.
And then if you focus on the why, you really, really do some deep soul searching and understand who it is that you are and why you're here. can do what you want. And you can build a brand that people understand and they recognize, even if one day you're a nurse, one day you're a DJ, one day you're an artist. You
Yeah.
can do all of those things because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you know that your vehicle can change, your mode of transport can change, but your why will stay the same.
Exactly. Wow, 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 wow. Truly powerful. There is so many things that you've said there that I know our audience is really going to appreciate, and even myself. It's taking me back to a thought that people often forget the personal in personal branding. Like, it is personal, it is about you. And this temptation to put on a facade, put on an act, I think a lot of people experience it because maybe they've done a certain type of content or they want to go a certain type of direction. And then they now start to sort of copy and paste and see, okay, this is what it looks like to achieve this thing or go in this direction. So I need to package myself this way and that way. But the more you pick up pieces from other people, you're losing you. And you then lose that authentic self and that authenticity, which makes you special and makes people connect. And stories are a beautiful way of doing that. And once again, it's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, man, to hear real stories, to hear real life experiences that connect with people, that resonate and inspire you, not to just know how to do something, but to get up with a playbook to, go and achieve that thing. So I'm glad we share the same mindset on those things. So you are really, really, really great in marketing and personal branding, and your LinkedIn is phenomenal. I think if there is one thing that people sleep on when it comes to social media, it is LinkedIn. It's almost as if like this secret gem that people just forget about. Everyone focuses on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, but LinkedIn is the place to be. So tell us a bit about, your LinkedIn journey and just building that platform that has now grown and reached so many people.
I'm so passionate about LinkedIn. I'm so glad that you brought this up because
Yeah.
I love LinkedIn. Like, you know, LinkedIn, imposter syndrome, right? I hate that term because I feel like it's always attributed to women and Black people, but imposter syndrome. For so long, I didn't feel like I could be on LinkedIn because I didn't know what I would feel. I'm a creative, right? So I didn't know how I would feel like out my platform, my everything, career journey. How would I explain to people that I've done this, I've done that? I was studying medicine, then I wasn't studying medicine, then I came back, and then at one point I was a DJ. It's just I didn't feel like I fit the briefcase app, so I
Yes.
stayed away from it. I don't know what happened that just made me think, oh, let me take an interest in this app, social media. I'm very inquisitive and I
Yeah.
like to learn how I serve people. A lot of the skills and the stories and the lessons I give to my clients are things I've experienced myself. So I'm always the first case study. Um, so I went, I was like, okay, I want to make this work for me, right? So I had now started an agency and we had like 20 freelancers working under my agency. I wanted to work with businesses. So I thought, oh, what's a B2B platform? LinkedIn. So I mosey onto LinkedIn. I get there and like, you think people on TikTok can lie. Oh, I've been to LinkedIn. People on LinkedIn can lie. Another thing with LinkedIn, because it's so business facing, like people, they don't want to say the wrong thing, right? And me being a professional loudmouth, I realized like these people, they're lying. So I started
Yeah.
creating articles that would be honest critiques. Like I would just be being honest, like, okay, this is what's working, this is what's not working. And I'll be very blunt. Like I'm a very blunt person. And in my bluntness, um, I started getting like an audience. But my bluntness isn't nasty. I don't drag people. I just say things the way they are. I say the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. Yeah. Hard truths. Yeah.
Yeah, I say hard truth. So I went there and did the complete opposite. I broke
Yeah.
all of the rules. Like everything that you're not supposed to do, I went and did. Because I wanted to see as well. So they say that on LinkedIn, you shouldn't write long posts. I write essays. Like I write essays. Every single post that I do is an essay. They say that you shouldn't talk about politics, race, religion, anything that makes people feel uncomfortable. I talk about those things and I talk about them. So I think from that platform is where I even learned the culture first brand strategy is from doing all of these different analyses on why certain campaigns weren't working and researching more, that I actually found my voice. So the platform gave me like confidence in my voice. And it also, whilst I'm doing that, I'm getting the craziest, like, you see, guys, get off Instagram. Nobody's there. Nobody is there. Like the CEOs, the people with the money, the people with the
Exactly.
money,
Decision makers are on
the
LinkedIn. I
decision.
always say this to people. Yeah.
Your focus is in the wrong place. You should be focusing on LinkedIn. That's where the decision makers are. That's where the people with the money are. And also, I realized that those kind of people value tenacity. They actually like forward thinkers. They like people who say the quiet part out loud. They like people who can strategize systemically. So I started showing my skill set just in how I perceive the world. And it was the easiest and the best way to show, A, what are my values as a strategist? How do I analyze things as a strategist? What are my ideas? And also show my work. So whilst I'm doing that, also show like what I've been up to, what I'm working on, my client success stories. I'm so passionate about LinkedIn. I
Yeah,
love it
no,
so
yeah,
much.
LinkedIn is a phenomenal platform. It is, I think, it is every creator's secret. I think people
Mm,
don't want to admit that, LinkedIn is a platform where you have access to decision makers, direct
mhm,
access as well. You follow them, you send them a message. So rather than waiting for a brand to see your reel or you see your TikTok or to see the bit of
mhm.
work that you're doing, you go straight to the head of marketing, the head of sponsorship, send them the real or even like send them a message and engage, like just be open. So thank you. You are
Mhm.
someone who is very prominent across so many different spaces. I mean, entertainment, media, social media, community building, marketing, branding, and people I'm sure have asked you, how do you do it all? What is Korrine doing? What is she eating? What is she reading? Like, how do you manage everything and do it all? So can you just share just with our audience on that, like how you're able to juggle, balance, prioritize? What does a day in the life look like for you and how do you manage things?
So when I was younger, I've always liked doing different things.
Yeah.
And one thing I used to struggle with, I have all the bad ADHD traits, I have them. Leaving things to the last minute, being disorganized, forgetfulness, all of these things. I have every single one of them. But I had to sit down with myself and think to myself, you know what? I can sit down and use this as an excuse, or I can build systems that actually support me to be successful. Because at the end of the day, no one cares. Like when they're dragging you on social media because you haven't sent out the orders on time, or no one cares. You're
Mm,
aware. They don't care, right? So it's either you sit there and you give yourself a pity party or you're honest with yourself, right? So that conversation came just before I started medical school. I was like, I'm not gonna get far in life if this is how I operate. I need to find a way of like making life easier for myself. So I became the list person. I'm the list person, the debt person, the scheduling person, the delegating person, because I realized that you need systems in order to be successful, especially if you want to be doing multiple things. I have systems. I'd use also the Pomodoro method.
mhm.
So I work in like 25-minute sprints and then I give myself a break and then I carry on. I do the power hour, wake up at 5 a.m. every single morning. I work 12 hours a day. And it's all unhealthy, like for other people, but for me, it's not unhealthy. I have to do that because I'm the one who said I want to do all the things. Nobody held a gun to my head and told me to do all of the things. It was me. So if I want to do all of the things, I need to make time for all of the things. Oh, I make time for them.
Yeah.
I've also learned to prioritize. I've also learned boundaries. I wanted to make everyone happy. And the thing is, after I messed up so badly in like my business and I felt like I had to rebuild my credibility, I felt like I couldn't say no to people because this is the psychology aspect. Like I thought that I had to say yes to everybody to prove that A, I was a good person, B, I was capable. But what I realized in saying yes to everybody and saying yes to everything, you become a liar because it's not possible for you to do everything, right? And in saying yes to everything and under delivering, you actually end up messing up relationships. So I learned the power of the no, the not yet, the not right now, or my time. Can we revisit this
Yeah.
conversation? And that's the hardest, like, I feel like self-development lesson I've ever been through. Like learning to say no and that no doesn't make you a bad person. Yeah. So I would say, like, in part of me being able to do it all, I also
Mhm.
say no to a lot of things and I have
Yeah.
systems and I don't stop.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah, no, amazing. Systems are really important because, as you said, when you're scaling and you're growing, there's only so much you can do. You said 2 years ago
Mm,
that you had to you're a team, right? And I'm
mm,
pretty sure you must have been at a point which I was this year, where it's almost like you're now letting people down because you can't answer everyone, you can't get to everything. But a part of you is like, but you're wrestling with that idea like, I want to help you, I want to serve, I want to deliver this piece of work.
mm,
But your list just gets bigger and bigger, and there's only one of you, right? So the
mm,
trust to be able to bring people on board, because the end value is going to be supporting people get more of your presence, your business continues to grow. So I think the decision to hire a team, I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, we end up being forced to make it. It's not something that we naturally like, just, oh yeah, here's
mm.
the perfect time to hire a team. It's like, things are going to fall apart unless I get some help, so let me get a team together right now. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that one as well. And yeah, it's really important to learn to say no as well. I think that was also a big thing. No gives you freedom. And
Mm,
within business, within life, you want to be able to be present to every moment and every commitment. And if you say yes reluctantly, you don't give your
mm,
best. You don't deliver to the best that you could do. So you're doing them a disservice by saying yes prematurely, and people will respect you. Like, you're an amazing creative. People have come to you for your work, your talents, your skills. So no, I can't do this, but in 6 months we can do it. People will wait because it is you that they want. They came
mm,
for your service, right? So sometimes people feel like they're going to lose out on opportunities or businesses or this, but if they want you, they're going to come and find you. And yeah, thank you so
mm,
much for sharing that as well. And earlier at the beginning of the podcast, we discussed that you are also the managing director for Smaid Entertainment, and you
mhm,
work very closely with Dr. Smaid, who is a world renowned entrepreneur and philanthropist, and he's doing amazing work for Africa and the diaspora. So, my question here is, what have you learned from being in close proximity to him? I mean, you have exposure that a lot of people don't to someone who is very
mhm.
influential. So, what are some of the things that you've learned, and maybe give us a little peek through the door so that we can get some of that wisdom?
So I always wanted a mentor. Like my entire life, I've always wanted somebody who could just tell me like the game, like help me on my journey. Never found one, couldn't find one. And then once I started working with Dr. Smaid, it's it's everything I've ever wanted in the sense that after being an entrepreneur, being self-employed like my whole life, I'm always trying to tick things off, like always trying to make sure that like I'm really on the right path. I always wanted to work for a company because I'd never worked for a company. This is like these two jobs are my first ever jobs. I've never had a job in my life ever. I've only ever worked like as an entrepreneur. I've always been self-employed, never ever in my life had a job. So that to some people, that's a flex, right? But to me, it became a point of, okay, if I'm really as good as I claim to be, how
Yeah,
come no one's ever hired me
hired
as
me.
like somebody
Yeah,
to, yeah. So
yeah.
so when I first started working with Dr. Smaid, I started the job as a brand strategist. So I was just there like coming up with ideas, helping with narrative, helping with image, that kind of stuff. In being in close proxemics with him, one thing that he's taught me is service. Like in order to become a king or to become a leader, leadership is about service. It's not about esteem. It's not about how people like bow at your feet. It's about how you serve people. And his leadership style is servant leadership. He leads from the back. So he always puts people forward and he empowers people. And I always felt like that's the right thing to do, but I never saw it like with my own eyes. I was telling you is I've got so many different interests, and what two of my competing interests is I'm an academic, like super academic. I read, I went to medical school, went to nursing school, that. But I'm also really into entertainment. So those two worlds are so like they're so different. And I used to feel like an internal conflict that I had to choose one. So there was a point when I was like really into my activism, really into my academics, and the person I was very assimilated to an academic, right? But my actual passion is stories and entertainment. He's the first person that showed me that you can be a diplomat, you can be a doctor, but you can also be into entertainment. You can also be into serving people. People don't need to write the rules for you. If anything, if you're a leader and a visionary, you write the rules and then you give them to other people. So he's taught me a lot about being authentic to yourself, and being in service of other people. That's it. True success, leadership, legacy comes from how you serve people. And the main thing that he's taught me is relationship building. This man is a master in relationships. He taught me that you need to make people feel special in any industry, like whether it is your clients, your customers, you need to treat people with the utmost respect. Whether they're the cleaner or they're the CEO, everybody gets treated like they're a king, because people are important. And just wherever somebody is right now, you don't know when you need them tomorrow. And one thing that he's managed to maintain relationships for decades. So some of the people that we'll be doing business with are relationships that he's had, like 20-year-old relationships.
Wow.
In order to do business with people and maintain a 20-year relationship, that means there's a lot of integrity in how you do things. And it gives people second chances. Like I'm very much
Yeah, one strike. Yeah.
a one strike. He's very much like you need to give people grace. You need to think of the context in which people act a certain way. So I think I've learned the most about relationship building and being people centered, being a servant leader, and also being authentic to yourself. That if you are a visionary and a leader, you make the rules, you don't follow them.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it is really, really great that you said that. And we can definitely see some of his influence and how you've managed to build, grow, and expand your influence, right? So, now, thank you very much for sharing some insights from Dr. Smaid. You mentioned something that was quite interesting as well, that the jobs that you have now, these are your first taste into the corporate world. How's that been like for you?
Smaid Entertainment Group. It's an event company, right?
Hmm.
I've been a DJ. I've been a promoter. I've been outside handing out flyers, going to people's events. I've done everything, like from
Yeah,
all of the steps, all of
all
the
sides of the
bricks. I have
business.
done
Yeah.
every single side. And I feel like that's what makes me valuable and why
Hmm.
I have those
Hmm.
positions is because not many people have done every single
Everything.
aspect of the business. Even with the events, I've done different types of events. Like I've done club events, I've done concerts, I've done festivals. A year before I started working with Smaid, I did Africa Music Festival. I was the marketing director, but I did everything. I was the project manager, the stage manager, I did the branding, I did everything. That
Yeah.
was my first ever festival. I didn't know that the year after I would be working with like the largest Black entertainment company in the
Yeah.
world. I didn't know. So
Yeah.
now when we're now like talking about festivals like Afro Nation, I have done something that I have a proof of concepts that I can actually add. So one thing I will always say is, guys, don't be afraid of the apprenticeship. You can't skip the steps. You
Hmm.
cannot
Hmm.
go straight from being, the apprentice to the executive. All of those lessons, all of those bad jobs, all of those bad positions, all of those less desirable things that you have to do is part of your learning process. That's how you become a master. One of my favorite books in the world is Mastery by Robert Greene. If you guys get a chance to read that, I'd highly recommend it. And it basically preaches about being how you become a master. And to become a master, you have to go through the apprenticeship. Now, in this position now, these are both apprenticeships. Like I'm very, very passionate about them. And I show up every single day because I want to be the best journalist ever. And I also want to be the best entertainment executive. And what's a better way to learn than from the best? So I don't even take it as I don't take it for granted. And I also don't take it as a flex because I know right now in this season, I'm still in school. I'm not there yet. I'm still in school and I'm learning from the best.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for pulling us back and emphasizing on that point, because it's very clear there are no shortcuts to the top, and you have to see every single side of the business. I think even as an entrepreneur, you are literally doing everything: your marketing, your sales, your logistics, your HR. So when you're working within a corporate industry and you're building your skills, there is value at each stage that will then give you insights that you can then apply on the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for sharing that, Korrine. Truly, truly, truly grateful for your thoughts there. Entertainment can look like vibes. People from the outside think that you guys are just having fun, you're going to these events, you're celebrating, but there are some things that they don't understand about entertainment and the business side of entertainment. So as someone who was performing at a high level in that space, can you just share what are those misconceptions of the entertainment industry?
One thing I always say to my mom is like, the entertainment business is not very entertaining. It's for you guys. It's not
Yeah,
for us. Um, but one thing I've learned as well working at Smaid is that the entertainment business is very stressful. There's so many moving parts all the time. Like you have the logistics of actually planning an event and making sure that people enjoy themselves, that it's safe, that you follow all the rules and all of that. But then also as a host, one thing I've learned is how to be a host, how to become a person where if you invite them somewhere, they will come. How to be a marketer of joy. You have to be a person who makes it look easy. You have to look like you're enjoying yourself. And that's the one thing I learned from Smaid. Other promoters I've worked with, or you can see the stress on their face. You can see that this event is driving them to drink. Like you can
yeah,
see all of that. However, with him, he showed me like you need to be a person who people want to come to, If they've invited you to an event, you need to personify joy. You need to be a person who's happy, who knows how to talk to people, who knows how to respect people, and who also doesn't treat their customers like trash, which sometimes in the entertainment industry, when you go to certain events, you can see that there's not been much focus on the client experience,
yeah,
that they haven't thought of the hospitality aspect of entertainment. So I think the biggest misconception is that it's a lot funner than it is. It's not
mhm,
fun. It's very, 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 very stressful. There's always something. It's firefighting. That's the best thing I would explain it as.
yeah,
Firefighting, putting out fires every single day. And another thing is, it's very male dominated. There's very, very, very few women in this industry. And that's for several reasons. I feel like obviously you've got the misogyny and the patriarchy aspect of it, but then there's also a safety aspect of it because it's long days, late nights, you're surrounded by a bunch of men. There's sometimes you do experience situations that are like, I'm being treated like this because I'm a woman, or you have situations where you're actually like violated because that you're a woman. So there's that aspect of it. And also I realized that in certain communities, people have this perception of like promoters. I don't personally like to go by that term, but I'll take it. By virtue of being a promoter or like being a DJ, you have certain assumptions that are placed on you, which are necessarily, people don't view entertainment as a business as much as other industries.
yeah.
Like if you say to somebody, I'm in tech, like there's that,
Yeah,
okay.
the
But if you say
connotations,
to
yeah.
people, I'm a promoter, like they're looking at you like, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, but fortunately, I'm surrounded by people and pioneers who are trying to rewrite that narrative, who
yeah,
understand that entertainment is just as important and as viable as any other career. There's a lot of changes that need to be made, especially in terms of making sure that the industry is more welcoming, accepting, and tolerant of women. That's the main thing, like that I'm trying to focus on within how we do our own personal things, creating more opportunities for women. So one of the ways that we're doing that is we've started the NextGen Academy, which is going to be like an internship where we're going to teach the next generation of entertainment entrepreneurs so that they don't have to go through some of the mistakes that we went through, but we're also creating like bridges for women to get into the industry or young people to be able to get into the industry if they want to. And I'm hoping that by the time that I leave the entertainment industry, I leave it better than I came into it. Because so many times I've said to like my friends, like, I wouldn't put somebody in this industry. I'd rather find somebody who's interested in it and then I help them along the way because yeah, it's really something.
Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah. No, but
Yeah.
no, thank you so much for sharing. And it's really inspiring to hear the work that you're doing. And once again, on the topic of legacy and thinking of leaving something better than it was when you arrived. And again, the conversation of servant leadership, right? So this is you practicing that, serving not just yourself, but serving women, serving the next generation. So massive, massive congratulations to you and your team. So Korrine, thank you again for spending time with us here on Invincible Minds podcast and for sharing your wisdom. It is really an inspiration to hear the things that you're doing, not just for our community, but for women in general on the broader scale and also our country and continent, really taking servant leadership to the next generation. I think my biggest takeaway from our conversation today is really culture is not a costume. It is a commitment, right? And brands need to do a better job at making sure that culture is part of their founding values. It's not something that you pick up later on. It should be there from the beginning. So thank you so much for leading in that space. For our audience and community, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to consult and get to know more about how they can lead with Culture First?
I'm everywhere. On Instagram, Korrine Sky, LinkedIn, Korrine
Yes.
Sky. I have a website, korrinesky.co.uk. Yeah, so just Google me, you'll find me.
Amazing, amazing. And we'll make sure all the links are added in the episode description. So, guys, please definitely follow the links, learn more about Korrine and the work that she's doing. Again, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, Collins.
And to our listeners, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon, please, please, please make sure you leave a review on this episode, rate the show so that we can keep bringing you more inspiring guests like Korrine who have an amazing story and share the wisdom that we need to develop our own invincible minds. If you're subscribing on YouTube, continue to support us, drop a comment on what you've learned today. If you're not subscribing, please subscribe, get involved, join the community. And until next time, I've been your host, Collins Nyatanga. Stay invincible.